Hi, Freedom Friends. Today we're talking about basic sugar-free meal plans. You may know that I'm on Quora.com as Catherine Best Gordon, and I answer a lot of questions about fitness, nutrition, and especially overcoming obesity, overcoming overweight. And the biggest question I get is basically, how do I plan my meals? What do I eat? What do I eat in order to lose weight? And especially people are asking, what do I eat to lose weight fast? And I want you to lose weight as fast as possible without making that backfire. So of course we want to get results quickly, but we don't want to undereat so much and over-exercise so much that the wheels fall off and we end up overeating instead. So the most important thing is what is on the food plan. And I've been working with people for getting off of sugar and grains and processed vegetable oils for more than 10 years now. And so many people ask me, can I just get one page? Can I get one page of what I'm supposed to eat and what I'm not supposed to eat? So I've gone ahead and made this, and this is posted at catherinetraining.com, and then I'll do a link to this in the description when this is done. So we're going to get started. We're going to keep it real simple. What are we going to eat on our sugar-free meal plan? Well, the first thing is you need to make decisions about 3 macronutrients. And those macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fat. So here's the guidelines. Protein, for fat loss and not muscle loss, we want to eat about 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. And I actually talked about that in my last video as well. So for me, that's probably right around 120 grams per day. I have a little bit of difficulty eating that much protein. That's a lot of protein, but that would be about the target, especially if you're lifting weights and doing a fitness program. Carbohydrates, so important. Carbs, up to your personal carbohydrate tolerance. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more later because I'm going to give you 3 levels of carbohydrate restriction. And this is incredibly helpful in terms of if you don't need to restrict carbs as much as I do, you don't want to, I call it the minimum effective dose. So we want the minimum effective dose of carbohydrate restriction. And so we're going to get into that in just a little bit. And then fat, enough to satisfy your appetite without going overboard, and reduce fat if your fat loss and your weight loss stalls. And the reason why is, especially when we're managing sugar and carbohydrates, you're going to start burning your own body fat. And as you get leaner, your stores of body fat are going to get lower. And you might have to make some adjustments in terms of how much fat you're going to eat and how much fat you enjoy. And you can adjust that. You can adjust your protein to energy ratio. You can adjust your protein to fat ratio, especially if you find that your fat loss is stalling. But the most important thing on getting off of sugar and going to a sugar elimination diet is you don't want to trigger hunger and cravings. You want to be satisfied enough so that you're not suffering and you're not constantly looking for sugar. So we want to make sure that we eat enough. We don't want to cut so far that it backfires and we overeat. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what is on the menu. So first of all, we've got your protein, your carbs, and your fat. So let's talk about protein. And that's going to be, we got meat. We have all of your meats, your pork, your beef, poultry, eggs, fish, and tofu. So we're keeping this very basic and very simple. Bodybuilders for years have had a saying about when they're getting close to competitions, something that's called the green face diet. Now, this is not the green face diet, but you can eat it if it's green or if it ever had a face. So it's the same kind of concept when we're looking at our proteins. If you think of your meat and your poultry and your fish, and then also eggs and tofu, especially if you're going more for a vegetarian type program, you're going to be able, if it's vegetarian as opposed to vegan, you're going to have your dairy and your eggs, but you could also have tofu on there and get that covered. So there's your proteins. Carbohydrates are going to be vegetables that grow above the ground and low sugar fruits if they're well tolerated. So your vegetables that grow above the ground, just think about it, except for corn, but we consider that a grain, not a vegetable. Anything that grows above the ground. So you got your tomatoes, your broccoli, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts, all of the lettuces, all of the spinaches, correct? They all grow above the ground. All of the squashes grow above the ground. Your root vegetables, right? Your carrots, your potatoes, your turnips, your more starchy vegetables are going to be below the ground. Now, I'm not saying that you're not ever going to eat carrots on a sugar-free nutrition program, but to get started and to keep it simple, think about the vegetables that grow above the ground. And that means they don't just have to be green. They can be red tomatoes. They can be all the different colors of peppers. Oh, one vegetable that does grow in the ground that's on the program would be radishes. So there's an exception. Low sugar fruits, the ones that work best for you, the ones that work best for me, the ones I'll tell you are, when I do eat fruits, berries, melons, tart apples, oranges, and grapefruit. But these are all, the caveat on these, other than berries really, because berries usually are well tolerated, are only if well tolerated. If you find that you eat an apple or an orange or a grapefruit and all of a sudden you're like craving sugar all day long, well, that's not the one for you, and you're going to have to go ahead and pull that back out. Next is other dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and up to 2 ounces of other cheese per day, once again, if well tolerated. So if you're not losing any weight, if you're not losing any fat, if you're not getting any leaner or smaller, then no, not well tolerated, especially if any of these foods have you like, wow, I'm hungry all day long. That's how you know. We know that we're having issues with hyperinsulinemia, with insulin levels, if the hunger comes back and if the cravings come back. The cravings also have to do with dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin. And I have other videos that you can search and I'll link to. What we understand now is the way that sugar and carbohydrates and insulin, cortisol, how they can get away of the feel-good mental chemicals, the feel-good stuff. Once again, oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, is that if we're having trouble with our insulin, if we've got hyperinsulinemia, if we have insulin resistance, they're actually getting in the way of those feel-good hormones. So if we can manage our sugar and carbohydrates, we can get that responsiveness back to those happy hormones, which means that we're enjoying life more and we're not looking for food all the time. Correct. All right. So let's go ahead and break it down and do some meal planning. How many meals per day? And then also you can track your nutrition facts and all of your meal components at fitday.com, and I'll put a link in the description to that. Level 1, carbohydrate restriction, sugar elimination. Level 1 would be a maximum of 50 grams of carbohydrate per day, 3 meals per day, and 2 snacks if desired. Now, being on Quora, I'm getting a significant amount of questions about weight loss from teenagers. And so, of course, I have to be, I'm going to go ahead and I got some glare and take these off. I have to be very careful. I don't specifically advise the teenagers on what to eat because that's an area that they really should be talking to a medical doctor or a registered dietitian when you're talking about teenagers. However, I will talk about the program that I wish that I had had when I was a teenager. I wish that I had had this available. So I'm going to take it in terms of what I believe, in my opinion, would work as more of a layperson. What I would do is up to 50 grams of carbohydrate per day, 3 meals a day, 2 snacks if desired. And at 50 grams of carbohydrate per day, that would allow for 2 servings of low sugar fruit. That would allow for enough dairy to be growing those bones and making sure that you get enough vitamin D. And so a breakdown of that would be, and I have this at fitday.com. And I also have this exact meal plan is up on my blog, catherinetraining.com, so you can see this exact meal plan. And we've got eggs, chicken thighs, salmon, salads made with red leaf lettuce, olive oil for dressing, broccoli, strawberries, cantaloupe, and some cream or some milk to top that off. And that would be for, if this is somebody who has never had to restrict carbohydrates before, or if this was for a young person, this would be the minimum effective dose of carbohydrate restriction. And so I would say if you've never done a low carb diet before, that this might be where you would start. And you could still have a couple of servings of fruit. You're going to have 2 salads a day. You're going to have a serving of vegetables. And of course, you're going to have your healthy proteins and fats. So that's level 1. Level 2 would be somebody, maybe you're in your 40s, maybe you have had a little problem with insulin resistance, a little bit more restriction, and that would be 30 grams of carbohydrate per day. And that would be 3 meals a day, up to 2 snacks if well tolerated. So one of the things about eating snacks, I have found personally, and so have many of my clients, if you can get satisfied with 3 meals a day, go ahead and leave the snacks out if you don't need them, because then you aren't reawakening your insulin during that snack time in order to deal with managing the food that you're eating. So if you find that you don't really need those snacks, if you're an adult, then you might want to go ahead and leave them out. And that, of course, leaves you more time for other things. If that is not effective, then we go for the sugar strike. Then we go to what would be Atkins induction. We go to a ketogenic plan, which would be a maximum of 20 grams of carbohydrate per day. That is not going to really give you room for any servings of fruit. You're still going to be able to have a couple of salads a day. You're still going to be able to have those above ground vegetables, but 20 grams of carbohydrate a day isn't going to leave you enough room to be having fruit. So that would be the sugar strike. And of course, there's, I actually posted a picture of the foods that would be on the sugar strike. I did it's like a little blue infographic that's got my favorite sugar-free foods, and those would be perfect for the sugar strike. So that is your very simple plan, very simple program on one page, on one sheet of paper. And you can go to catherinetraining.com and you can find this plan. I will link to it, and then you can print it out, stick it on your refrigerator, or stick it in the drawer so you can do your meal planning. But I do want you to go to fitday.com. I have been using FitDay for over 10 years now. It's just amazing. It's absolutely free. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your iPad. You can have it on your computer. And once you enter your foods in, you search for your food, you enter it in, you put in the amount, it's in your recent foods list, and just you open up that list, you click the foods. And the great thing about FitDay is you don't just have your macronutrients, you don't just have your protein, your carbs, and your fats. It's also going to show you, you can click another window, you're going to have your RDA nutrition breakdown. So you can look at that grid, and if you wish, if you're low in calcium or magnesium or something like that, if you wish to, you can take a supplement and you'll know exactly where you are. I do want to add that there are some extras, and those extras are Bragg's apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, all other vinegars that are sugar-free, herbs and spices, unsweetened cocoa powder, liquid stevia, and xylitol. So there's a couple of sweeteners on there if they don't bother you. So you could have liquid stevia. My favorite is English toffee flavored, and xylitol. And if you wish, if there are times when you want a chocolate dessert, I eat this and it works for me. I don't do it all the time. When I'm really trying to lean out, I usually don't have this chocolate dessert, but it's so wonderful to have it there. And it's just simply some heavy cream, unsweetened cocoa powder, the stevia, the xylitol, and then I will, to thicken it up, I'll often add a little bit of cream cheese or a little bit of sour cream, and oh my gosh, and then a little bit of just vanilla extract. And it's so good. And it's just one of those ways that every once in a while, if you need some chocolate, if you need a dessert to just have that feeling that you're not being deprived, that other people aren't having things that you can't have. I do this at holidays. It can really be a nutrition plan saver if you've got that. So there it is. One page, simple, easy meal planning, 3 different levels of sugar freedom. And I want you to eat for yourself. The most important thing I want you to do is find a way to discover what your level of sugar or carbohydrate restriction is in order to get the results that you want. And once you find that level, learn how to plan your meals and then go on with your life. And then, of course, the other elements of transformation are going to be a training program, and then rest and recovery, making sure you don't get your cortisol high. And then really overall is this idea of, and this always works for me, this concept of what are you training for? What are you changing your diet for? And for me, it's a love of the arts and singing and dancing. So I really want you to think in terms of when I eat in a healthy way and when I train in a healthy way, what is it that I want to do and experience and give that makes the eating and the training worthwhile? All right, until next time, be well, eat for yourself, and I'll see you back here soon on the Sugar Freedom Channel. Take care, everybody.